Hello to all you Patriots out there in podcast land, and welcome to episode 157 of Canadian Patriot Podcast, the number one live podcast in Canada. We're recording on Monday, November 5th, 2018.
I'm Marty, hunter and sports shooter in rural southern Ontario.
I'm Gavin, a business owner, hunter, atheist, gun enthusiast, and CCFR field rep for the GTA.
My name is Ian. I'm a hunter, reloader, hobby farmer, and certified prepper on Vancouver Island.
As always, my name is Andrew. I'm a recovering libertarian, competitive shooter, and a firearms instructor at Ragnarok Tactical. We'd love to hear your feedback about the show. You can visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com/feedback or email us, feedback@CanadianPatriotPodcast.com. You can find the show on Stitcher, iTunes, and anywhere that fine podcasts are downloaded. Oh, Tim's not here.
That's out. Facebook.com/Canadian Patriot Podcast and Instagram at Instagram.com/Canadian Patriot Podcast.
And we need your help. To support the show, visit www.patreon.com/CPP and become a Patreon. You can get a better quality version of the show for just $1 per episode. The more you pledge, the better the rewards are. Show you're not a communist, buy a CPP t-shirt for just $19.99 plus shipping and theft. Visit CanadianPatriotPodcast.com, the homepage, and follow the link on the right.
All right, it's time for my favorite segment. It's called What Are We Drinking? Every week, Arrowhead Coffee brings us What Are We Drinking? Arrowhead Coffee is owned and operated by Canadian Armed Forces veterans. They love our country, the true north, strong and free, their family and friends. Join Arrowhead Coffee on their hunt for the perfect brew to raise morale and bring that feeling of home to you no matter where you are. A portion of all profits helps Canadian Armed Forces members, veterans, and their families. All right. So on my screen from left to right, we're going to do What Are You Drinking? Gavin, what are you drinking?
Sadly, this evening I'm not drinking anything at all because I have an early morning meeting with a corporate lawyer. So
you remember how I told you I love you like a brother? You're dead to me. Dead.
That's fair. That's
when
fair.
his lawyers stopped us from drinking.
Yeah, this is kind of an
They do
important
consider
one. So, yeah.
All right, Ian, what are you drinking?
Well, I'm drinking some Venezuelan rum and coke in honor of another case of failed socialism, so I thought I'd just raise a toast to their honor.
Well done. Timely and everything. We're going to invite Ian back. Marty, what are you drinking?
I have the official beer tonight.
Always a great choice.
Excellent.
I'm drinking Crown Royal Maple because my wife has limited me to drinking the alcohol that is open. She did not say how often I'm allowed to open the alcohol, but she said I have to finish this bottle before I start another one. So tomorrow I'll be drinking something new.
Well, only if you finish that bottle.
Shut up, I can do it.
That's the spirit.
I believe in
Challenge
me.
accepted.
Yeah. Positive mental attitude.
That's right. Speaking of, me General is in
in
the chat. Thank you to the live YouTube audience. If you're not listening live at 9 o'clock on Mondays on YouTube, you should be, unless you're doing something else like driving, in which case you should not be. Also,
No.
I discourage you from drinking while listening because there's no way that you can be sober and listen to this show. I know, I've tried.
Yeah.
So we've got comments from me General that are worth sharing. Augusto Pinochet says, I bought a Savage B mag chambered in 22 LR. What's a varmint barrel? And I absolutely love it. Things dead nuts accurate. Only problem is it likes the expensive shit Federal Gold Medal Ultra Match. I think it's with a varmint barrel. I'm sure that he knows what a varmint barrel is.
Yeah. It's for varmints or commies.
You can always save money by reloading.
Well, I don't know. It's 22 LR, so I wish you luck in saving money reloading 22.
Oh, no, sorry. I thought you said 223.
Oh, if I did, it's because I've been drinking.
Yeah.
Or
Well,
my reading comprehension skills are lacking. In either case, I blame the government and socialism.
Yeah. That's always a good excuse.
So, yeah. Savage makes cool 22s. You should probably get one, I think.
Or
Ian,
if
do you have
them.
a Savage?
They're made in Canada, and I have a couple Savages, actually.
Yeah, so
Well-
Gavin's got one. I've got one. You've got a couple. Marty's got one.
And my girls
Yeah.
actually learned to shoot on them, too.
Not in 22 though.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yours is not in 22. You should get one in 22. They're super cool.
Yeah, I also suggest them in 338 as well. That's I've kind of got one on the little end and one on the big end of the Savage spectrum.
I took down last year's deer with a Savage 10, so it was pretty good rifle. I switched over to the Tika though this year.
That is a good thing. I have one more thing to housekeeping wise to do. There have been complaints about the lack of shows on your various RSS feeds. There were 3 episodes go up on 13 days ago. So the I don't know, Brant in the YouTube chat. Yes, I'm showing you a picture of my phone. Deal with it. I don't have a way to screen share effectively. Episodes 153, 154, and 155 all posted the same day, 13 days ago from today. There'll be 2 episodes going out tomorrow, last week's and this week's. Yeah, sometimes I have to travel for work and it cuts into my editing. It also cuts into my sound quality and other stuff. But until you become a Patreon and replace my income, that's what I got to do to pay the bills.
Well, we've all got a wage cuck at some point.
Well, I'm a keep wage cucking for now. P.S. Ragnarok Tactical. Buy some body armor.
Yeah.
High ticket items would really, really help me because it's getting closer and closer to year end. We're in Q4, guys. Let's do news. First one, the New Brunswick government. So this is follow up. We talked about this before because the government tried to form a government, and I was confused about how they had an election and they didn't manage to form a PC government, but the PCs won the election. Anyway, the government voted to dissolve itself, or enough members of the provincial parliament voted to dissolve the government in New Brunswick. The New Brunswick government will now be a PC minority government, and it's being backed by some coalition that relies heavily on French language rights. So, hey, go New Brunswick, you're almost a right-wing province.
So is that what happened with the original election? They only got one more seat than the Liberals, but did the coalition kind of promise to keep the Liberals going in place, or how did that start out even?
I am not entirely clear on the... Go ahead, Marty.
Yeah, I was gonna make some, like I'm not entirely certain of how the Liberals ended up in charge, but it seems like there was more of a coalition against them, which is why they ended up stepping down.
Yeah. So my understanding of this is that if you have like the sitting government and then there's an election and there is not a clear winner, the current sitting government gets to stay in power unless there's a vote of no confidence.
Okay, so that seems to be what happens because they had their throne speech and enough of the members of the provincial parliament voted the Liberals out of power in New Brunswick, which is what should have happened because they won the election. No, wait, scratch that. The Liberals lost the election. The Conservatives won. The Conservatives are in power. That's the thing that should have happened in the first place. Even if it's a minority government, that's not the point. We don't have a 2-party system, so you're probably going to end up with a lot of minority governments because that's the way our parliamentary politics work. Yeah. Whatever. So,
and an ineffective government is usually the best government.
Well, and that's what the PC government in New Brunswick is promising to be, that they are going to be an effective government.
Well, at least it's a start. I mean, they've been slowly going conservative across the country, and we know Alberta's coming up next.
Yep. I would not bet against that. Alberta will be the next one. Ontario, we'll see what happens with Quebec, New Brunswick, Alberta. I don't see BC changing. Saskatchewan is its own weird thing, but I'm okay with Brad Wall as premier. They're a flavor of socialism that's not disgusting.
Does BC have a conservative provincial?
Oh boy, this could be a conversation that's going to take us a while. So when I first moved here, I was told that the BC Liberals are the same as Conservatives, which nobody can believe that sentence, but that's what I was told. And it turns out that the Conservative actual MPs around here, or MLAs, are actually considered to be almost on the fringe of lunacy type of thing. So we haven't had an active Conservative government here for decades. And so the BC Liberals were about the least left of center that you could get. But so that's all you've got. You've got Liberals, Greens, NDP. So you got Commie Light, Commie, and Dreamers.
That's what I thought. Like there is there even like a registered active Conservative provincial party?
Well, there is, but I mean, in the last election alone, I mean, there was a conservative candidate, but I mean, you never saw the guy.
I wasn't even certain. Like, I for some reason I had thought that like BC like literally did not even have a conservative party.
Oh, they do, but I mean, I've got a lot of friends that are as conservative as I am, and they wouldn't even vote conservative because just these guys are supposedly out to lunch. But I mean, again, they don't even issue a platform per se, so they just
sounds similar to like the libertarian parties out here, kind of thing.
Well, yeah, there's no voluntarist party, that's for sure. I mean, as we know, the libertarians been co-opted as well.
Yeah, too many people still living in their parents' basements, working on their neck beards and fedoras.
Well, hey, if you want to go to the meetups in Ontario, Marty and I know how to get you a ticket.
Yeah, that was a. If anything,
meeting libertarians in person is the reason why I can. Oh yeah, but I mean, meeting these people in person is the reason why I cannot be a libertarian, because the provincial party is completely out to lunch. Like they're.
I think we should go back though, because I would like to go and make fun of them.
I mean, the wings were good.
I don't think I want to actually attend another one, but it was enjoyable to attend the one just for the shit talk.
Could we go to the same bar again and just get an adjoining table so we can enjoy wings and making fun of them without actually participating? Because that would be like the most libertarian hangout ever. Libertarian.
Yeah.
And if they were true libertarians, they'd put up with it.
Yeah, right. We could out libertarian them.
Well, I mean, we couldn't, because I mean, like the leader of the Ontario Libertarian Party told me that I didn't understand because I don't have children. He's a teacher, so that pretty much sum that up.
You do now, so you do understand. His argument is now invalid.
So his brand of
prove him wrong.
His brand of socialism is still socialism.
Leftist indoctrination
he was also
teacher.
not a big fan of supply and demand, which was a bit odd for someone who is the leader of the Libertarian Party.
And a guy that's a teacher, he's like involved with the leftist indoctrination program known as schools, and he's trying to tell you that you're not libertarian enough.
Yes. You have achieved the understanding of the dichotomy.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Libertarians. Great idea. Terrible execution.
Yeah. But congratulations to New Brunswick.
That is Pinochet.
Too many politicians don't have helicopters.
That's right. We do need more helicopters.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about other wasteful government spending. Former Governor General Adrian Clarkson still bills more than $100,000 a year in expenses. So I didn't realize this, but I mean, I knew Governor Generals got a pension. I didn't realize they got to keep billing expenses forever. So I also didn't know there was not an upper bound on this.
What job-related expenses would one have when they're no longer doing the job?
She has to maintain a staff, an office, travel expenses. I think there was something to do with marketing.
Why?
But what kind of official travel is she doing?
I don't know. I don't know.
Like, if this was some sort of like the immediate past Governor General still has some say in things that go on and some sort of official function. Like, I'm part of an organization where like the immediate past president is still part of the board just for continuity's sake. I could get that, but that's not the case here. So as soon as you're done, like, get your pension, because that's like anyone that gets a job that has a pension plan gets their pension when they retire. Everything else stops immediately.
Except nobody else gets their pension after 6 years.
Yeah.
Unless you're a CEO or something.
So Clarkson's office refused to answer questions about what the money is being spent on or how Clarkson determines what expenses are appropriate to claim. So this sounds like a great opportunity for an access to information request.
Oh, yeah.
I can't believe how much money we're spending on that. And I mean, like, great news that the current Governor General is about to outdo Adrian Clarkson at being the worst Governor General in the history of Canada. Way to go, current year party. But also, seriously, like over $1 million in expenses in like 10 years. I guess 12 years. Still, $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
So I have to ask, I mean, what would she talk about at this point? I mean, like, it's kind of like back in, I hate to date myself here, but back with Married with Children, you know, Al Bundy would talk about 4 touchdowns in one game at Polk High. And now we've got Governor General talking about something she did 10 plus, 15 plus years ago now. Well, it's maybe not 15 now, but what has she got to tell everybody?
I don't know, but apparently she needs administrative support, office space, furniture, professional services, travel, and accommodation to do it. And I guess she gets a bunch of letters and opportunities to speak publicly.
So she can charge for that, and that money can be used to pay for her staff and office space and travel and everything else.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Trudeau did when he was an MP, right? He charged for speaking engagements.
Yeah, lots of people make a living at it.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I'm
Some of those people
not super thrilled about this.
Yeah,
it's true.
Well,
it's true.
the ones that are successful at it, yeah.
All right, last generic news item. This is really just a teaser for next week because we don't have all the details yet because this is still new and emerging, and I have had many conflicting bits of information about it over the weekend. So referencing an article from the Globe and Mail from Thursday of last week, I think the 31st of October, Wednesday of last week, Privacy Commissioner launches investigation into StatsCan's efforts to obtain banking records. So Stats Canada has apparently contacted banks in Canada and told them to hand over customer data in January. And this has already become an issue in Parliament. And there was a thing on C-SPAN. And was it Michelle Rempel, one of the blonde Conservative MPs, has already gone to bat with like the telephone books worth of information about all of the Liberal government privacy breaches in the last 18 months?
Yeah, I believe it was her.
I think it's Lisa Raitt for this one.
Was it?
It's one of the blonde Conservative MPs that we like, and all you white people look the same to me. I don't know.
Yeah, it's Lisa Raitt.
Good. So they showed up with like a stack of phone books worth of information that the government has managed to improperly disclose over the last, I think it was 18 months. And Stats Canada saying that that's not going to happen and they're going to protect our private banking information. I think we're on the wrong page, though. I'd like to know why Stats Canada thinks that they can have my private banking information. I didn't give that to the government.
And the best part is he's happy to meet with the privacy commissioner.
Yeah.
And that's also just as a reminder, that's 500,000 per year. That's not just 500,000 total.
That's not a thing.
Yeah, I don't know why they need this information at all.
I don't understand. So the head of Stats Canada actually released a statement about this, and man, is this ever 1984-ish? Like this is Big Brother writ large. So from the head of Stats Canada, or I guess the chief statistician of Stats Canada, traditional statistics gathering methods are no longer sufficient to accurately accurately measure Canada's economy and social changes. It is our duty to leverage the best method and sources to provide facts to Canadians when we need it, while providing the highest level of protection of privacy and confidentiality. So methods and sources is usually something that you talk about in the intelligence gathering community. Yeah. I don't know why Stats Canada thinks that they're CSIS today.
May as well be.
But seems to be the best thing. Well, the best thing I can think of is just trying to find new ways to tax.
I mean, that would not surprise me. Part of this, I think, is the same reason that we had the long-form census reinstated. The Liberals weren't getting the answers they wanted, so now they're going to get data to fabricate the results that they would like. Right? It's the same reason the long-form census was reinstated, because Canadians didn't want to fill out that nonsense because it provides us with no value. We don't get anything for it. It doesn't do anything to help us. It doesn't get, like, the outcomes of it don't do anything to help Canadians. It just is cherry-picked data for the Liberal government to change, to say that they have science backing what they're doing.
If I can tighten up my tinfoil hat for a second too, I mean, there is also the fact that they didn't really say how they're choosing the people. So if they want dirt on somebody, that's an easy way to get it.
Right, and this is this whole Big Brother scary 1984 situation. Is I don't want the government to have my personal financial information in any capacity. I would actually like the government to have as little information about me as possible on every subject.
Yeah.
So this is
Yeah, I
This
mean
is
they already know how much we make yearly because of our taxes and this and that and everything else. Like they can fuck right off when it comes to my banking records. Like if they need a better judge of how the economy is doing, look at how many people are employed, what they're getting paid, and everything that you already have access to.
Yeah. So stand by because as the details get figured out and I get the opportunity to read what's happened in Parliament in the last week or so, we'll probably spend a significant portion of a show talking about this because this has the potential to be scary stuff because it's a government agency that's doing their own thing without any apparent federal oversight, at least parliamentary oversight, and I don't care for it.
Well,
oh, I lied. There was one more generic news thingy. Canada issues terse statement after far-right candidate elected president of Brazil. So I, for one, would like to congratulate the new president of Brazil. The far-right leader, I think his name is pronounced Jair? Jair?
Yeah.
Bolsonaro. Again, I speak like a gringo, but congratulations to Jair.
Well, and here's the thing. So he got 52% of the vote. Our illustrious leader got 36 or 39. They're calling him a dictator, and yet ours is a populist prime minister. Take what you will from that.
Well, I mean, but ours isn't saying that he doesn't want gays in his community. Actually, I think ours is saying the opposite.
Well, I mean, that depends how you look at it. That might be what he says, but then he goes and, gives Castro a eulogy, who was famous for not liking the gays. So,
Yeah, talk about chucking people out of helicopters.
Yeah.
Well, it's important you attend your dad's funeral.
Well, yeah.
Did I say that out loud?
It's okay. I think we're allowed.
Yeah. But just a reminder, this show is for entertainment purposes only.
That's right. To Stats Canada or CSIS. Sorry, Marty, I'm talking all over you. Try again.
Yeah, it's like not exactly all up on my Brazilian politics, but has this guy actually made statements like that about the gays?
Well, yes. Let me find you the quote that I wanted to read.
I'm just curious because, our media would say that everybody is anti-gay and anti-Jew and Nazi if they're right-wing at all. That's what I'm just asking. Did this guy actually make?
So not even if they're right. Not even if they're right-wing, Marty. If they're just not left enough.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm asking. I'm like, did he actually make these statements, or are you just quoting CBC as a joke? That's where that's what I'm trying to figure out.
I'm going to quote Playboy magazine because that is a reputable source of news.
As reputable as anything.
So apparently this is Bolsonaro. If a gay couple came to live in my building, my property would lose value. If they walk around holding hands, kissing, it will lose value. I don't have the entire article in Playboy. I really only read it for the articles, I promise. But I don't have the rest of the text. And I kind of wanted to see what else he had to say about this. Because
pretty outspoken. He's ex-military, and he's famous for making videos. There's a bunch of compilations on YouTube about him. And he says a few coarse things. He's kind of like a Duterte for South America.
Yeah, he understands why employers.
Gay, if that's just like that, that makes me the economics of the way the country is. Like,
well, I don't know, man. Have you seen the dudes from Brazil? They're pretty flamboyant. I don't even know how you'd be able to tell them apart, to be honest.
It's probably the kissing.
Have you ever been greeted by the dudes hug and kiss each other on both sides of the cheeks, man? Like, it's
okay. Well, I don't.
I mean,
participate in that. In any event, I like the couple of things that I've seen where he's done English language stuff. I have not seen a lot of information about him, but I do think it's really funny that Freeland, she's our foreign affairs minister, Chrystia Freeland. She's the one that screwed up the trade deal with the Americans recently. Her office was the ones that were concerned about human rights and so forth in Brazil as a result of this new dictator being elected to government.
Dictator with 52% of the vote?
Yeah, that's the dictator. But it's okay. She refused to work with the American dictator on trade, which is why we just got screwed on the new NAFTA deals.
Interestingly enough, too, one of the first things he wants to do is loosen up gun laws to allow people to actually defend themselves against criminals.
I know. What's not to like about this guy, right?
Oh, yeah.
Seems fairly common sense to me.
Okay. Well,
But that seems like the exact opposite of something that a dictator would want to do.
No, you just don't understand the liberal point of view. We need Tim on to explain it.
yeah.
All right, let's do more identity politics, but it'll be Canadian. So the first one we're going to talk about is more New Brunswick news. New Brunswick is big this week. There's a small village in New Brunswick that had to remove its straight pride flag following a backlash, and there's follow-up to that, which I want to talk about in a minute. So I didn't know what this flag was when it was on the front page of CBC. It's 3 black stripes interspersed with 2 white stripes and some kind of a logo, but it was hard to see in the picture. And it's like the male-female sign, like whatever those are. It's not Gemini and stuff. It's some other Greek sign. Come on, somebody do their astrology. Help me out here.
Mars, Mercury.
Yeah, Mars and Venus. That's what it
Mars
is.
and Venus.
Thank you. Mars and Venus. That's what it is. Thank you.
Isn't
So I didn't
Mars
know
like
what that
the god
flag
of
was.
war?
Yes.
Excellent.
But so I didn't know what this flag was, so I clicked on the CBC article to like read about this because I'm like, wait, what? This black and white flag is upsetting the LGBTQ community. Well, tell me more. Because I've honestly never seen this flag before. It was in on the front page of the CBC. So there's a village. It's called Chipman, in rural New Brunswick. It is the home of 1,100 people. So, bustling metropolis in New Brunswick. Apparently, somebody approached the mayor and asked them if they could put up a pride flag of some description, and the mayor was like, "Sure, we're open to that. We support everyone. Go for it." And it had to be taken down the next day because it upset the LGBTQ community in a village of 1,100 people. So I'm sure both of the trannies were upset.
Yeah, I mean, the simple solution to this is you're not allowed to hang anything that's not a provincial or federal flag.
Well, and I would be in favor of that on all government facilities. You get to put up the official government flags, and that's it. But
you could do proportional representation if scientifically the LGBTQ community is 10% of the population. They get their flag 10% of the time, and then the what do you call it, cisgendered flag, or what do you call it, the straight pride flag could be up 90% of the time.
Well, and that, I mean, I'm okay with that, but it couldn't even be up for one day in a community that is predominantly made up of cisgendered, heterosexual, normative individuals. Nazis.
Yeah.
I wonder if they've scheduled their straight pride parade yet.
I hope so. I would travel to New Brunswick for that because I think it'd be funny.
Especially if you got Ron Jeremy as a parade master or something, or something like that.
Nah, I've seen that dude in Vegas. I don't want to go close.
Pass. Actually, ran into him 3 times, weirdly enough.
No.
Don't ask me how.
There's not enough Lysol in the world.
I've met him once or twice.
No.
Shook his hand even.
As did I.
I mean, obviously, I don't expect anyone on any of these any of our panelists to answer this, but like, how is being proud of what you are offensive to others who are not that?
Well, that is a great question. That is the part about this that I don't understand.
Like someone who's gay and proud of it, that doesn't offend me that I'm not gay.
Yeah.
Like, they're proud of what they are. Good for them.
Awesome. Yeah. As they should be.
Happy about it. Yep.
So yeah. I guess for backstory in this, the LGBT pride rainbow flag was raised in June in this little village, and a couple of concerned citizens got together and petitioned to have their flag put up, which council unanimously agreed on. The council members and mayor have now had personal attacks and threats against them as a result of allowing this because of the tolerant left.
Diversity is our strength, unless you disagree.
It certainly is. The best part is the comments. If you get down to the lower third of the article, it was a scary day. They created a time machine and put us back by 10 years. Like there's so much nonsense. One of the residents of a nearby town of Minto said that this is a symbol of hatred because her gay son killed himself.
That's a bit of a stretch.
Sorry,
Like,
sorry. Not laughing at the situation, just that comment made me laugh.
Like, I don't understand these people. How do you?
Ian, are you okay there?
Yeah, no, I had an invader in my office there for a second. I was waving her off. I think she's trying to tell me that she heard me on the podcast, and I was like, "This is not the time."
Yeah, I'm still on it.
It's live.
Shout out to Mrs. Ian. Thanks for listening.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
We'll give him back soon. I promise. We only have another like 2 or 3 hours to go.
That was just my Team America impression. You know, the secret signal.
Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah, like just don't put any flag up. That's.
Oh no,
done.
but this is like
no flags.
The LGBTQ community said that they had to push so hard to get their pride flag erected, and then now they have this atrocity of another flag. It's like, no, this is just the opposite group. This is you're happy to be LGBTQ whatever MOUSE, and this other group is happy to be, heterosexual. So can't you just be tolerant of their choices? Can't you care about their diversity?
Yeah, I mean that's the problem when you're part of the majority group, though. Like you can't be. I'm sure it's going to tie into something later. I think we had it, but like you can't be proud to be anything that's of the majority. But if it's something that's of the minority, then it's totally fine.
I mean,
well,
let's be honest here. Where does being a like heterosexual, where does that fall on the discrimination hierarchy these days? It's got to be pretty high.
Yeah.
I am not sure. I would think that of the people that get discriminated against, yes, because of the whole like reverse discrimination law nonsense stuff, but also
put it this way, it's the only one that's socially acceptable to be discriminated against.
Yep.
So let's pivot a little bit because there was some follow up from this. Apparently, the Human Rights Commission in New Brunswick got involved. So the commission chair, Natalie Chasson, I don't know how French they are. It's New Brunswick. It's probably pretty French. Chasson said that people need to understand the impact of indirect discrimination. When there is an adverse effect on someone, even when the original intent may not have been to discriminate. The raising the flag, apparently in support of all groups as the New Brunswick community, had the opposite negative effect. I don't even... What?
So, the New Brunswick Human Rights Commission says you can't always treat everyone the same?
That is literally what they're saying, but...
Isn't that... like specifically their job to ensure that everybody is treated equally?
No,
like,
you would think that, but no. Where's my quote? I lost my quote. If we are to change the narrative about diversity and inclusion and how we achieve it, we must do it collectively, knowledgeably, and respectfully. There's nothing in that about equality.
No, because they want equality of outcome.
Right. So it used to be about equality, and now it's about diversity and inclusion. It's no longer about equality. Well, maybe equality of outcome. That might be like the extreme socialism might be the only thing that's equitable.
So, quote, I'm reading this quote like, this flag distraction is a lesson for us and for other rural communities such as our own. It added no harm or hate was intended, and that the village of 1200 remains an open, welcoming community. And I believe that no harm was intended. They were just like,
and no harm was done.
And no harm was done. Like if
this flag is
do a gay pride, most people here are not. Yeah, like if we're gonna do a gay pride, we'll support that. But most people here aren't gay, so we should also do something to support them as well, to show support for everybody in the community.
Right, which is why the mayor and the council agreed to this in the first place, because they're like, yeah, we're a diverse, inclusive community. Everybody gets a fucking flag. Sure.
Right. Yeah.
Or whatever, like, the equivalent in New Brunswickese is.
It's probably somewhere in between English and French.
Well, it's kind of funny how fast it's gone from, tolerate us to love us to bake my cake. Like,
Yes, bake the cake, bigot.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, like I have no problem. Like most of my coworkers, like I deal with on a day-to-day basis. If they're gay or not has no bearing on it whatsoever. But if they're asking for special rights, it's another matter.
Yeah, that's not something I put on a job application, or if someone wants to do whatever they want to do in their free time, I don't give a shit.
And I hate to say it, but even Trudeau's dad said what happens in people's bedrooms is their own business. I mean, that's sad when even Trudeau Sr. had it right. And that's about one of the only things he did have right, but I'm just saying.
Broken clock and all that.
Yeah. Twice a day.
It's one of those things, like, I look at like kind of the shooting community as, very a typically right-leaning community of people and stuff like that. And, I've seen in the competition world, I've seen guys that are gay. There's on Southern Ontario, there's someone that's transsexual, male to female and stuff like that. And guess what? All these guys that are super right leaning in that, no one gives a shit.
Yeah.
They're like, whatever.
Because they shouldn't. It doesn't matter. It literally doesn't matter.
They do is their deal. The right, we're made out to be anti all these things. And no, we're just anti-special treatment of these things. We want everyone to be treated equally. So when it comes down to shooting competition, doesn't matter what they are. If they're shooting the same guns as we are, and no one cares, and whatever they want to be, they want to be. They're treated the same as everybody else on the range. And, it's like, it's the way it should be.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, other things that are the way that they should be. Let's pivot to some more identity politics. Two stories, one from the 1st and one from the 2nd of November. So these are both new. Different parts of the country. Same story. Police investigate. It's okay to be white posters. That's for New Westminster, British Columbia. And it's okay to be white signs posted around Halifax. Halifax police are also investigating.
Seems like it's taken a year for these signs to move from Ontario out to either coast. Because
are we just going to start investigating all of the 4chan memes soon?
I can't wait till we waste more taxpayer dollars. On the upside, I can tell you that this was November the 2nd was the day that I lost any remaining respect I had for Harjit Sajjan. And I can tell you that because you should go to his Twitter.
Well, isn't that the architect of Operation Medusa?
Yes.
Negative, Ghost Rider. The pattern is full.
Or was that the Normandy landings? I can't remember which. I mean, there's so many things.
Desert Storm? Was it Desert Storm?
For so many of our greatest battle honors, probably going all the way back to the Somme.
Yeah. I think he's actually the one that rode the rubber duck in on the Normandy landing, which is why we had a rubber duck for our 150th anniversary.
For everyone out there in podcast land, Harjit Sajjan is the Minister of National Defense. He's a Metro Vancouver police officer. I think he was a homicide detective. He was also an officer in the reserves and deployed to Afghanistan, and may have made some unsubstantiated claims about his military service. For some reason, he's still in government and holds a ministerial portfolio. But November the 2nd is when I lost any respect for him. And if you go back and listen to an old episode, we talked about how I had hope for him as one of the not crazy liberals when he got put into his position of authority.
Yeah, I was just going to say the same thing, pretty much. Like, this is, like, on paper, this is the one liberal that we should be like, this is the guy. This is our guy.
Well, he was actually qualified for the job.
Yeah.
Doesn't say he was the only one that was qualified for the position that he was put in.
Yeah.
And he has managed to thoroughly disappoint me. So his quote from his Twitter: "These posters may appear innocent, but the racist undertones they represent have no place in Canada. Proud of the strong reactions of Canadians against this behavior. We will continue to stand up against hatred and intolerance."
I agree. His racist undertones should not be here because his implication is that it's not okay to be white.
Can I just say, this is the most Canadian racism I've ever seen? Guys, it's okay.
It's okay, guys. It's okay. Like, it's not better, but, like, it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
Well, that's the part where I'm like, the CBC, the Vancouver Sun, Harjit Sajjan, like all the media outlets that are covering these stories, they're all freaking out because of these racist posters that are causing division and separating Canadians and horrifying. One of the people in Vancouver, a quote from Post Media: "I was really horrified to see them. I don't think we should give space to that kind of language."
Well, let's flip it over for a second. Let's say we're in Vancouver still. We go into Richmond and we say it's okay to be Chinese. Would that
Oh no,
be
you can't say that. You have to write that in Cantonese.
Yeah.
I've been to Richmond. There are no English signs there.
Oh, fair enough. But I'm just saying is that nobody would even blink an eye if he wrote that. It'd be
No,
like,
exactly. And that's if you did this to any other group.
Chinese is like next to white in terms of the hierarchy.
Well, yeah, but if you
You probably can't say it's okay to be Chinese. I feel like that one would it still cause problems.
Well,
Anything else though?
There's
Asian
another
pride said the Asian man, black pride said the black man, white pride said the neo-Nazi.
okay, well,
yeah, but there
go to
was a famous Canadian that was just running for mayor of Toronto that did this experiment using a particular phrase, and she substituted white for native, and everybody signed off on her petition saying that, yeah, of course I get behind this. But, you know, when you put white there as the phrase was originally written, everyone says that it's racist and everything else. So it's the same thing.
We should just quickly go over what these signs are. So this was something that came out of 4chan as a joke. Like, hey, let's just put out signs that say it's okay to be white so that we can watch all of the media flip out and say that it's not okay to be white.
Yeah.
Which
And
is exactly
people
what
thought
our
it was-
media has done.
Which
on
is
multiple occasions.
right. And so what you have are guys that people that go on 4chan
Trolls.
that are
Trolls. Internet trolls.
that are doing this and posting these signs because it gets people to say that it's not okay to put these signs up or to say that it's okay to be white.
Yeah.
This is purely trolling, and again, our government media not having a sense of humor, not getting what this is, taking it literally, and saying that saying it's okay to be white is a white supremacist sign.
Yeah.
I like this is so
serious
I mean,
case of not being able to take it.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think you understand what the word supremacy means if you think that okay is equivalent.
Yeah, but the fact that the media does react the way that it does, and it's so easy to make them to react that way, is a barometer of the times, right? Like
Put it this way. If you find this sign racist, you're the racist.
Yeah.
or the defense minister.
I believe Marty had it.
Yeah, this is not white supremacy. That's somebody go look up the definition of supremacy, because this is not it. Like,
Yeah. It means better than not okay.
right, and I don't see a problem with these signs. There is nothing wrong with saying it's okay to be
Anything.
whatever you identify as. If you identify as a unicorn, go nuts.
Yeah,
And
like I
it's
think
okay to be a
it's
unicorn.
Right?
I mean, I think it's stupid to put them up, and I think it doesn't need to be said because the same is true of every flavor out there. But if somebody wants to put it up, I don't have a problem with it. If someone wants to, like anyone else, like put up being black is okay, being gay is okay, being Chinese is okay, being whatever you want to be is okay. It's all okay.
And this isn't even saying like pride or like, it's like, it's okay.
Yeah.
Do we still not have freedom of expression?
Well, we don't have freedom of expression in this country. That is not a constitutionally enshrined right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Gavin that regardless of like what race or whatever that, it's dumb to have a sign like this. However, I do appreciate a good trolling.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
yeah. I enjoy reading about all the leftist heads exploding and the waste of government and police resources investigating these crimes.
thought crimes?
I don't understand why the police are involved in this.
And like, I don't think we need to go into the article too much because I mean it's the same topic. But if people look at like the news articles, Vancouver Sun, that's in the show notes, look at some of the comments of people that saw the signs and like how they were, distraught
Triggered?
and emotionally affected by seeing these signs and all stuff like that.
Oh God, it was loud like a bomb.
Yeah. They have PTSD now since they've seen the "It's okay to be white" sign.
Well, they weren't firing
not
AR-15.
Canadian, but I saw something the other day. Something like 46% of American millennials have been diagnosed with PTSD as a result of the last election. So I'm sure that number is applicable to Canada for similar things. Like this will legitimately cause people to have PTSD.
Yeah.
And this is what happens when you get participation medals. I mean, people aren't used to like losing or having different opinions or anything else. You have to get PTSD versus learn, that people don't always agree.
I'm hoping we see similar results in our upcoming election.
Yeah, this is amazing.
Yeah. What a time to be alive. But for us, it's just okay.
It's just okay. All right, let's pivot. Let's do some guns. We got a bunch of gun stuff to do. CTV News: woman in custody after 25 guns found in gas tank by border officers. I don't think that's the place you store your guns.
That's a really big gas tank.
Maybe she's trying to take Cosmoline off.
Yeah.
I don't. So the details are naturally sparse because the government is reporting, or the government, the media, the mouthpiece of the government is reporting something to do with firearms. So naturally, they're not very good at describing the details.
Wait, does it have a locking gas cap on that gas tank?
It is unclear. Woman from Toronto.
If it did, that's legal transportation and storage. Then, if it had a locking gas cap.
Yes, but it's not legal to drive them across international borders like that.
Wow.
Did she have an ATT from the border crossing to her house?
Right. Yeah. And you got to declare that stuff to customs, which is the part that they caught her on because she failed to declare her illicit property.
That could be a problem.
This is someone that they were like they knew that this.
Oh yeah, they knew this was because this is not a thing that you just arbitrarily. I mean, maybe the border agent was really on his game that day and he was at where are you going? Okay, where you been? Okay, have you got anything to declare? Oh, all these guns.
Yeah. Do you happen to have 25 guns in your gas tank by any chance? Yes.
So I mean, like the CBSA officer could. I take that back. The CBSA agent, I should not refer to them as officers. They are not law enforcement officers. The CBSA agent could have been really on the ball that day. But I strongly dislike that theory. I don't believe that that's the case. I suspect that someone has been looking into this from the Guns and Gangs unit in Toronto for a while, and they found a way to catch someone.
I'm thinking they used her as a throwaway.
It's entirely possible.
Could have three or four vehicles loaded with guns right behind her. She gets pulled over. They give it a little hot tip to Crime Stoppers, and before you know it, she's pulled over. 3 or 4 guys make their way through right after her.
It's entirely possible. I hope that is not the case because that means there would be more illicit guns on the street, as the politicians like to say. This is really the point I wanted to bring up with this article, though. Well, the 25 guns part.
If that was the case.
Maybe it doesn't say what kind of guns or if they were any good. I mean, like the government is stupid enough to accept homemade shotguns during gun buybacks. So, and by homemade shotguns, I mean pieces of pipe attached to pieces of 2x4. But
your gift card that way.
True. So the part that I wanted to bring up with this, though, the reason that I put it in the show notes is not the credit for the CBSA or the incompetency of people smuggling guns into Toronto, but there are people smuggling guns into Toronto, and the government keeps telling me that illegal gun owners are the problem, and we have our guns stolen, and that's why there are illegal guns on our street, not because they're being illegally smuggled into the country because of inefficient border security.
But are you saying criminals don't follow laws?
I am saying something remarkably similar.
But more laws will fix it. Don't worry.
More laws will definitely fix it.
Yeah, they don't follow the laws that we have now, but they'll follow the laws of the future. That's why we need those ones.
Well, that's the amazing thing about politicians. They point to the failure of their previous laws in order to justify more laws. It's an incredible logic stream.
It's something. Let's do another one from iPolitics. I don't like the iPolitics website, but actually, you know what? On the topic of things I don't like about the iPolitics website, we're going to address that picture. So, minister drops assault weapons from gun control consultations. So this is from Tim Nametz. And his picture in his article, I don't know if he put this in or somebody else did. It's an AP picture from that shooting that took place in Pittsburgh at the synagogue a week ago. I don't really understand how that is relevant to Canada. Right. That's my. So yes, shootings in general of innocent people in particular are tragic events, but things that happen in other countries, officially not my fucking problem. Canadian laws need to reflect things that happen in Canada, not things that happen in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is in the United States. That's south of our border. That's things that are not my problem. So thank you, iPolitics, for the heart-wrenching photo of the memorial for Pittsburgh victims that has got nothing to do with the rest of your article. Tim Nametz, you're a jackass. Thanks for writing. Moving on to the more important, the meat of the article. Border Security Czar, former Toronto Police Chief Bill Blair, has removed the term assault weapon from the firearms vocabulary in the discussions that the government is holding on possible bans of assault guns and handguns and assault weapons and handguns in Canada. That's the terribly misleading 10-question survey and the town hall public consultations that are invite only. You know, those things, the ones we're going to wrap up in January so we can table new firearms law. Assault weapons. Thoughts?
Well, now it's assault style weapons, which is more all encompassing, if you ask me.
I agree. The assault style weapons part is.
Well, yeah, I guess he finally realized that we've already banned actual assault weapons. If we're going to use the common accepted definition of what an assault rifle is. I'm still of the mind that these things do not exist unless you actually use one to assault somebody, in which case anything is an assault weapon then, but only those ones that have actually been used.
And they're worth more as a result.
If my iPhone has a Magpul case on it, isn't it an assault iPhone?
Does the case go up?
Yeah, it kind of flips up.
Goes up.
Yeah,
two or more features.
Yeah, does it have a forward assist handle or something? Yeah.
And that's where we're going with this too. That's why he's saying
style.
Yeah.
Marty was talking a bit about this today, and I'm of the opinion that our next firearms law that they're going to draft following the passage of Bill C-71 is going to be based on the American 94 assault weapons ban. So that was anything that had features. Those are things like collapsible stocks, detachable magazines, flash hiders, bayonet lugs. Bayonet lugs. The shoulder thing that goes up.
Yeah.
I don't think the shoulder thing that goes up was actually on the list, but there's a bunch of features, and that was in the Americans 94 assault weapons ban.
Don't forget the always popular grenade launcher.
That's
common.
The bayonet lug and the grenade launcher thing are basically the same thing.
As long as they include the sunset clause, just like the states did, that's great.
Well, I would rather we didn't have this at all. And I mean, the sunset clause, I guess, is better than nothing because the Americans did build featureless rifles for like 15 years. And I mean, they still do in states like California and New York. But I'd rather not have to deal with like featureless rifles nonsense because AR-15s are already restricted. And the media, or I guess,
they'd be way more restricted if you had to put that stupid fin on your pistol grip to make it awkward to hold.
Oh, the California grip.
Yeah, California. Wow, that makes it not a pistol grip.
Because no criminal in the world wouldn't just rip that thing off or cut it off or put a hole in it to put their thumb through it.
No, it's like how you have to put a magazine. It's like that 5-cent rivet's really going to stop crimes.
Yeah.
So the The writer at iPolitics, this Tim Nauman's guy, further goes on to infuriate me, saying that about how common ARs are in Canada because there's 7,500 of them. There's over 2 million licensed gun owners. There's only 7,500 ARs? Guys, you've got to go buy an AR-15. If you don't own one, you're wrong. Fix yourself.
And the sad part is that most people that own an AR-15 usually own 2 or 3, so you're talking about even less people owning one.
Right, and that's what I am actually appalled that there's only 7,500 AR-15s. We need to get a lot more of these into people's hands, like a lot more.
Either appalled, or I'm super happy that there's only 7,500 registered.
Yeah. Okay. So people on the YouTube chat, our buddy Diesel Boy, he says he's getting a second one. I say you get a third one and a fourth one. I mean, ARs are fun. They're like Lego. You buy a couple of barrels, different lengths. You make a pistol one. You make a long one. You make one into different caliber. Like
you know who you can buy those barrels from?
One, they're super easy to make. Oh, who can you buy barrels from?
You could buy barrels from Ragnarok Tactical.
That's where you should buy barrels from, for sure. You should also buy Matador muzzle devices to put on the end of your barrel.
Yeah.
Ragnarok makes shitty barrels. I know that guy. I wouldn't trust him.
It's also misleading number 2 because, I mean, let's face it, like now there's AR-15 alternatives out there. Those numbers are going to get more and more skewed because it doesn't reflect reality. If there's only 7,500 AR-15s, how many SLRs, K&Ms, Stag 10s, and so on out there? That
10.
Yeah.
10.
They were all lost.
Yeah. Mike from Canmore bought them all and went canoeing. And
tipped them over.
Yeah.
No, I'm pretty sure there are only 10 SLRs that have made it through production.
Yeah. I have one of them, allegedly.
And all of the BCLs that I've seen have failed in some way. All both of them.
Well, they are BCLs.
Yeah.
So, yeah, 7,500. We got to work on those numbers, but I would not be surprised based on what the media is saying and based on the way the government is talking if we don't see stuff strongly pulled out of the US 94 assault weapons ban. The part about this that is a concern for me is that we're talking about basically all semi-autos at this point.
Yeah.
The guns that are super scary for them, the handguns and the AR-15, are already restricted, and you have to have the extra license and the transportation permit and the extra rules about storage and transportation. So, like, you can't further restrict these guns and still allow people to own them. Like, there are no more restrictions. You can't make another, like, unless you're going to make a third tier of license for them, like, you can't somehow more restrict them than they already are.
Well, yeah, and if they start going with this nonsense, like, so you're going to have shotguns start falling into that because they're going to have some with pistol grips and ported barrels and stuff like that, or, like, it's just going to get ridiculous, and you're not going to be able to own anything.
Well, and I agree that we're not, but
take all the guns.
Well, and I think that's where they're going to try and go. The first step is we confiscate a few more things, and then a few more things, and then we move all the existing things to prohibited, and then we change the prohibited classes to get rid of those things, and then there are no more guns.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was having this conversation when I was down in the U.S. this weekend, which was kind of interesting. We were in Jersey, which is not a particularly liberal gun state, despite the fact that a lot of people in rural Jersey own a lot of guns. But, like, there was me, a bunch of Americans, and a Mexican guy. And the Mexican guy was going on about it, like, our rights are being eroded here in the U.S. and, like, it already happened in Mexico. Like, there, if you want to buy a gun in Mexico, there is one gun store for the entire fucking country. That's it. You have to buy it from them because they've made it just so difficult to buy one. And that's kind of what this is. It's the same thing. They're going to slowly start prohibiting or banning or grandfathering one thing at a time. So no one's going to care.
Is there any civilian gun ownership in Mexico?
Yes.
There is for self-defense only, but it has to be a non-military caliber, like not 9mm, so it has to be 38 special, 380, and I think you're allowed one and limited rounds.
Yeah, so you're allowed to own guns and have them in your home for home defense, and you can still own some hunting rifles to go hunting, but, like, you can't legally have them basically anywhere else. Like, it's very difficult to have one on you. Like, it's everybody does.
I have an interesting idea. How about we stop going after legal gun owners that have licenses, and we just start arresting and detaining the criminals who are actually breaking laws.
You mean like that lady with 25 guns in her trunk or her gas tank? Sorry.
For starters, but then I mean
All
of the other criminals that are breaking laws related to guns. Just
Yeah.
if you break a law with a firearm, you just get whatever the maximum is.
Yeah.
Use the
Just-
laws already on the books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just make that a dictate of the court system that if you're caught committing a crime that involves a firearm, you just get the maximum sentence.
Yeah, no bargaining away the gun charges, like when it's a drug case and they just
Right,
got
like if you
pulled
wanna
over for dealing. Don't bargain away the fact that they had an illegal gun. Charge them for that as well.
If you want to get guns off the street, as our illustrious safety minister keeps telling us, then get criminals using illegal firearms off the street, and that'll stop the problem. Because
Yeah.
2+ million legal gun owners. If we were the issue, everybody else already be shot by now.
Yeah.
So going just quickly touching back on that lady that was with the 25 guns in the gas tank, and yes, that was a success that we captured that person with 25 guns in the gas tank. But how many successful trips across the border with guns do you think it took before they were able to profile that person and get them?
I would say 3 to 5. Based on the efficiency of the law enforcement stuff that I have seen, I would say at a minimum 3 to 5.
Just like a drunk driver.
I would have thought a lot more than that even before they were able to trace it back and locate in order to get it, narrow it down to it being this person that's crossing the border. Like how many successful trips of 25,
Well, and how many other people in her ring of gun smugglers are there that are using the same means in order to illegally import firearms into this country?
Yeah. And where did those guns go? What have they done since being smuggled into the country illegally? Have they been able to get any of them back?
And this is people that are crossing at the monitored crossings.
Yeah.
Let alone
Got to use those
illegal
irregular migrant crossings. The RCMP will probably carry your gun case.
Even think like marinas. The marinas have the phone call to call if you are coming from another country when you boated in there. It's like, customs is on the honor system at the marinas.
Yeah.
Customs inspects 2% of shipping containers.
Yeah. Always seems to be mine. Fucking bastards.
Yeah. All right, let's do another thing. Deer hunter unhurt after ending up on wrong end of a gun, which sounds a lot more exciting than it is. Somebody in Nova Scotia was taking pot shots at a guy hunting deer. Probably more accurately, poaching deer.
It was probably pretty exciting for that guy.
Yeah.
Like, I'd be pretty rattled if someone was shooting a pistol at me.
Yeah. Again, what was wrong with just saying, get off my property?
Yeah. I wouldn't say this guy's poaching, although it's potential.
He was on private property, and the property owner decided that rather than using his big boy words, he would use a pistol, which doesn't sound like a great choice when the guy has a deer rifle. I mean, just going into that, the odds of you've effectively showed up to a gunfight with a knife, except you brought just a tiny gun.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem like a...
Go ahead, Eddie.
Right? Like, if you shoot at me with a pistol and I have a rifle, I'm relatively confident that I'm going to win in all cases.
Yeah. I'd say you've got definitely better odds.
So according to the article, the hunter was on private property, though he didn't realize it at the time. Now, we don't have the details because the article is done by the CBC, and so journalism is useless. But this could be backing onto Crown property, and the guy's drifted out of as part of the bush that he was hunting, he's crossed over the line onto the private bush, and then ran into issues. We just don't know the details, but the guy was on private property when the incident occurred. Now, whether or not he was, there innocently, or he was just going, well, this is unmarked bush, therefore it's free to hunt on, which technically is true.
Yeah.
At least in Ontario. I don't know for all of the provinces, but
So let's look at some of the charges that were laid, because the police did some interesting, or at least the CBC has done some creative journalism. It's possible that the police have done some creative charging. So, following the search of the residence, the police found a shotgun, a rifle, a pistol, a carbine, and ammunition.
Oof, dangerous.
One of these things is not like the other ones.
But like the fact that they call it a carbine and a rifle was odd to me on that.
Right? That's the part that got my attention. I'm like, what did they do to distinguish those things? Why not two rifles?
I mean, clearly the guy had a brown brass, and it's 12 feet long. It's clearly a rifle.
Well, and the charges that they laid to the landowner get more exciting. So, discharging a firearm while being reckless, okay, that makes sense. Careless use of a firearm, 4 counts. Again, that makes sense. Pointing, that makes sense. Possession of a weapon for a dangerous purpose. Maybe. Here's where it gets weird. Carrying a concealed weapon and possession of a firearm in a motor vehicle. I don't know what that charge is. I've never heard it before.
I think it just breached the conditions of ATT, so to speak. So he threw it in his vehicle, drove out to the property edge, then ran out with the weapon because they don't have anything else to charge him with. So they gave him a concealed weapon charge.
And then possession of a firearm in a motor vehicle. That
you are allowed.
The last two are the
firearm in a motor vehicle.
Well, because it's loaded in a motor vehicle. That's probably where they went with it.
I don't know. This is like those last two are the two that are the part that I'm like, I don't know if it's creative reporting or creative police work, but those last two seem kind of suspect to me,
Yeah, is it? I mean, I know like when you're transporting a firearm, like for hunting purposes and stuff like that, like it can't be loaded. And I know you can't have a loaded gun in your car while you're driving it around with it. It's transportation, but like, I mean, if you have a gun in the car, in theory, on your own property for pest control or something like that, that's not specifically hunting, is that illegal? Like,
yeah.
I mean,
so on my farm here, you still have to, even if you're running around with the quad and the shotgun on the front rack rotor, has to be unloaded.
Yes.
There you go. So then, yeah, I mean, I guess anytime you then have a gun in the car, if it's loaded, then that would be a firearm in a vehicle.
This doesn't say a loaded firearm there, and that kind of stuff.
No.
Possession of a
firearm in
a motor vehicle.
Yeah, naturally the CBC is light on actual facts. Colored me shocked.
So, as far as I'm aware, possession of a firearm in a motor vehicle is 100% illegal, assuming you are a licensed firearms owner. And I don't see anything here about, not having a firearms license in any of the charges.
Yeah, or not even improper storage.
Which is weird because the CBC quotes the police as having said that some of the firearms were not stored properly. So why did they not hit him with unsafe storage? An actual charge.
Yeah.
So I hope that there's follow up to this because I'd like to find out more details about what happened, but also maybe don't shoot at people with bigger guns than you. And just as a general rule of thumb, maybe just don't shoot at people. That's probably a good rule to live by.
Well,
I like the comments from the RCMP officer who was just saying hey, if you don't want hunters in your property, post some signs, presumably as an alternative to going out and shooting at them with a pistol. And as well as there's also the comment of, if you do have hunters roaming on your property, given the fact they're hunters with firearms, probably contact the police, just given the nature of it all. It's yeah, that seems like, don't go out and confront the guy with the gun.
The more interesting thing would be is if he actually shot back at him.
Well, that's the unless you get really close to somebody and have a pistol, I see the guy with the rifle winning in nearly all cases because he has a rifle.
Well, especially because right,
rifle is bigger. Pistol. Right, so unless you get really close with that pistol, I don't see that being terribly effective.
Yeah, he really should have taken the rifle or the carbine with him.
Or possibly the blunderbuss, because
nothing
like volume.
It's true.
Let's do another one. The the Federation of Indigenous Sovereign Nations. This is in Saskatchewan. Wants to arm their conservation officers with assault weapons.
Whew.
So this is interesting. This is on Global News. I'm surprised that they're not calling them patrol carbines.
Well, that's because they're against it, right? They don't want to arm these guys.
The FSIN or the FISN rather does not want to arm their conservation officers, which I find unusual because they're allowing these government agents to enforce laws. So you would expect that they would be able to carry a firearm for preservation of their own lives.
Well, one would think.
But apparently it's a scary thing to give them what I can only imagine are going to be AR-15s.
So give them all the old Enfields that the Canadian Rangers used to have.
Well, the way it works too is that I used to live in northern Saskatchewan many years ago, and it's still provincial conservation officers that work in all these places, and so they're generally imports from out of town. They're not local people. Giving them patrol carbines, it's a bit of a thing, but of course you have to ask them yourself: are they worried about their own members being exposed in a dangerous situation to these conservation officers? Like, would they find themselves face to face with them? Is that why they're worried? Or is it just a matter of they just don't like the fact that somebody's going to be walking around with one?
Well, again, the media being light on details that they are, I don't know. I find it very unusual that these people are enforcing some variety of law and they're not being allowed to arm themselves the way that other law enforcement
especially
are.
I mean, conservation officers are going to be dealing with people walking around in the woods with guns themselves, so potentially a violent, dangerous situation.
I mean, I'd say the potential, considering that everyone that they're going to be dealing with are licensed firearms owner, their potential for violent encounters is statistically far less than that of an average
Agreed.
Officer. However, 100% of their interactions is going to be people with firearms.
Agreed, but it's also going to be people that are poaching, that are breaking the law and may or may not actually have a firearms license. I mean, if you're willing to break one law, I mean, most of them, will be with people that have done maybe something minor or nothing at all. It's simply just a trailside stop, if that's what you call it, when they check your papers when you're out hunting.
But if you're a member of the FSIN, they have unlimited hunting rights. They don't have any need for a tag or anything else. They're good for year-round hunting. So what are they even worried about?
Yeah.
I think part of this is to enforce non-FSIN member, call it respect for First Nation land, right? Because if you're not a member of the tribe, this tribe, not that tribe, you have to have like signed paperwork allowing you to be hunting in that property.
Well, that's fair enough, but too, I mean, it's basically all of northern Saskatchewan. Is that what that boils down to?
Yeah, So I mean, I can definitely see arguments both for the conservation officers union or whoever wanting to arm their people so that they have a fighting chance should they come across somebody that means to do them harm in the commission of a crime. And I can also see like maybe giving people guns in the woods is not like the best plan because it's going to lead to escalation of force. But
they've already got a pistol,
right? Like they already have guns. That's like, to me, I'm like they're just having an effective tool for their job. I don't know. It doesn't really bother me if like, you know, I've been
like if they've already
officers in Ontario.
If they're already packing handguns, what's the harm of sticking a patrol carbine in their trunk?
Well, and even more than that, they had a 12 gauge and they had a 30-06 usually too.
Yeah. Like I've been stopped by conservation officers. They've been armed and that, and I don't know. It never bothered me. I mean, I'm armed in that situation. Like, you know, it's the same thing. Like if once you're,
that's what I've been doing wrong with the police. Every time I get stopped, I should be armed, and then we'd be on a level playing field.
Well, I
mean, but like, and I don't mean it in that way, but I mean like, you know, when you're dealing with these type like conservation officers, stuff like that, like that's the situation you're in. And if you're out hunting, like if you're a firearms owner, you're comfortable around firearms. It's never concerned me just seeing that the fact that they had a gun. It's like I'm not freaked out by it because
it's the same when I see a cop. Like, is that not the same justification? Exactly. Like, let's not arm cops because arming cops could lead to more violent confrontations.
Right.
Like
then
we end up like London.
Save a knife, win a life. No way. The other way around.
Yeah.
Naked people again? Is that?
Yeah.
People. Yeah. Well, it's London. Let's talk about one more thing. We got Toronto officer that fired their duty weapon at someone who was walking away from them following a traffic stop. So a SIU, or a lawyer rather, is calling for the province's SIU to get involved with this. Constable in Toronto is facing disciplinary charges under the Police Services Act for excessive use of force and failing to comply with police training standards for firearm use following an investigation by the Toronto Police Professional Standards Unit. So TPS, PSU is their internal service for auditing Toronto Police. SIU is a provincial body for the province of Ontario under OPP's jurisdiction for regulating provincial police forces. So if that clears things up for everyone out in podcast land that's not living in the center of the universe. So following a traffic sorry, go ahead.
Did you guys watch the whole video?
I did. It was highly entertaining.
Well,
I did not. I just saw the stills from it. Maybe I'll do that quickly.
If the video had ended about 10 seconds earlier, she wouldn't have even been in trouble because he was walking towards her, fist clenched, basically aggressive stance and everything else. She had her gun out, and if she had actually taken the shot about 10 seconds earlier, you wouldn't have even heard of the story.
Nah, she was busy fiddling with her radio instead. I mean, it was a really good McClatchy though, because this was totally a warning shot.
Totally a warning shot.
I don't know where she put that round, but she missed.
Do you think it was an intentional miss or?
Clearly
she tried to shoot him. 100%. She tried to put round 2-3 rounds on this dude.
Well, then she limp wristed then for sure.
Oh yeah, no, the firing, the gun is very.
I just watched the video now. I don't.
So it's one-handed firing while she's on her radio, and it's 2 or maybe 3 rounds, and she misses by a lot. And I don't know what her safe background was, but I feel like it was the minivan down the street.
I get the impression when I see this video that she did not mean for that gun to go off.
No, well, maybe, I don't know. It seemed like.
But you're talking about 12-pound trigger. There's no way.
Yeah, it seemed pretty deliberate to me, but yes,
Dude,
she was surprised by it.
If you watch the way that she jumps back with her feet, you know what I mean? She's not standing still. She doesn't keep walking forward. She startles herself back. She did not intend that gun to go off.
Yeah, maybe it was a sympathetic movement, right? Maybe she pressed something on the radio and her other hand fucking responded, right?
I agree with you that that's insane to have it. We are talking 12-pound trigger, but she was probably riding that trigger hard to begin with, and then just a little extra.
Yeah, and I mean, not to second guess people that were there because we're not there and we're watching shitty webcam video from a parking lot, some significant amount of distance away. But
can I say how incredibly calm the drunk dude is after being shot at?
Yeah, good for him for becoming very compliant.
Well, and you got to ask yourself what happened the 10 seconds before the video started too. I mean, who knows what he was doing before that?
Apparently running away from a what do you call it? Being stopped. He was stopped. He was being stopped for impaired driving and fled his vehicle. Now,
as one does,
what he did in the proceeding, fleeting. I mean, it could be she'd already had drawn down on him, so I think the dude was probably not a good dude to begin with. And probably it's Toronto, so you don't just get to draw your gun for fun. There's paperwork when you do that in Toronto.
Turns out there's actually less paperwork if you draw your gun and shoot somebody than there is if you just draw your gun.
It is fewer forms.
Yeah. A lot of enforcement background in my family too, so
yeah. I mean, I think she was not expecting the gun to go off. based on her reaction, but like she also had the gun out and was like pointing it at a dude, so she had moved to the
just
point where she
never
was
fired one without ear pro on before.
maybe, but like she got to the point where she was comfortable using lethal force, and then she was like, "Oh crap! I just tried to use lethal force and I did it wrong."
Yeah.
Probably going to hear about that tomorrow.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean, we'll see what the SIU says. Hopefully, it's a good shoot and scumbag gets recharged. Because from what I understand, they actually dropped the charges for the drunk driving.
That's not how that works. You could both be guilty of crimes.
Right. Well, so
I think this was a we'll drop the charges. Please don't sue us type of thing.
but sue you for what? For like negligently discharging a firearm? It's not like she hit him.
In our current society, he'll sue her for stress,
PTSD.
and PTSD, and whatever
Or they drop the charges in exchange for his testimony against her.
Well, it's important to remember that only the police and military should have guns.
So they dropped the charges fleeing from the scene, but not the drunk driving one.
Now, that being said, I mean, this absolutely was, like, at the time when she discharged that firearm, I do agree with the article that was an unjustified discharge. Like, she should have repercussions as a result of this.
If she actually had the temerity to hit him, she'd be charged with manslaughter.
Yes.
So, lots of good takeaways. More time at the range so you hit the thing that you intend to hit. Also, maybe some of those like critical thinking skills things that they practice at police college, the shoot, don't shoot thing. When the suspect is facing away from you, that's a don't shoot. Just so everybody's clear.
Maybe finger off the trigger when you don't want the gun to go off.
That also a great rule. Knowing your target and what's beyond it. Or in this case, how far the minivan is down the street or whatever the hell she hit. So, yeah. Do we want to do feedback?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Okay. Ian, why don't you read the feedback?
This is a little bit odd, but there's an email from Ian, which is myself. Hey, guys, just listen to the Tuna Can episode. Andrew mentioned having to check his EDC knife in his bag for travel to the West Coast. I do agree that airport security has logic issues, but good news, they've changed the rules on knives in the aircraft cabin as of this summer. Now, if you so desire, you can legally carry through security a 6 centimeter or 2.36 inch long blade. That would at least allow you to check something or carry something such as a Spyderco Ambitious or an SE Kangaroo if you're traveling light and aren't checking a bag for the trip. Keep in mind the U.S. still has a total ban on carry-on blades if you're traveling there, and I included a link as well. So it's not often I read my own email, but here we go. And just to show you guys, you need to engage in stabbery on the airplane for whatever reason, cutting your in-flight meal, whatever have you. That is a legal carry-on blade.
There you go.
So my regular pocket knife is not good, but I mostly travel domestically these days, but my normal pocket knife is too big. I will have to get a 6 centimeter pocket knife. Although you should see the guys at the x-ray scanner freak out when they see my shears.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so trauma shears are treated a little differently. I've never been turned down with my IFAC I carry on board as well. But this was actually brought in this summer. I don't know if you guys knew the background behind this. Or do you guys know anything about this?
No, very little.
6 centimeters? Actually, we discussed this on this podcast.
Oh,
we made things up on this podcast. We don't actually know the reason.
Yeah. Yeah, I fly with my shit all the time.
What was going on?
Yeah, no, so basically some guy that basically took it to the government as a freedom of religion thing, and he was a Sikh gentleman.
I was going to say, if I remember correctly, it was a religious issue.
Yeah, and so, I mean, good for him. So,
yeah.
Tip my hat to him. I mean, he expressed his freedom of religion and basically wanted his Kurpan on board, and the government said, well, fair enough. And they assumed it would only be applying to those people, but of course, equality of outcome. So now they did change the rules with Transport Canada. If you check on the CATSA website, it's actually different, and it will just say for religious purposes. If you go on the Transport Canada website, it just says any knife.
Yeah.
So who wins that battle? CATSA or?
CATSA is just basically a minion to Transport Canada. So Transport Canada is the law.
Ah, excellent. So that solves the question of which one of these do I need to print and keep with my carry-on.
Yeah, that's why I included the link as well.
When in doubt, though, just tell them that you have the beard. It's cool.
Exactly.
Just carry a Skeen Do.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't work. You saw what happened in Montreal with that. Or do you guys remember that one?
I don't know that one. Yeah,
I'm going to say no.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a guy carrying a skiing do in Montreal. He was actually in a parade in full kilt and had his knife.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And he actually got caught and fined for having a concealed weapon.
It's sticking out of his sock.
That's right.
How is that concealed? You can see it.
And the best part is, it was a fake blade. It was like plastic, and they still gave him the charge of the concealed weapon.
As most of them are, yeah.
Yeah.
Mine's not.
Mine is also not.
It's important to honor your heritage.
Yeah, I actually.
Are you saying it's okay to be white, or I guess Scottish, which is kind of close?
Well, I'm just saying it's okay to honor your heritage.
That's very politically correct of you.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna have to find a smaller pocket knife to carry as my traveling knife, I guess, because I normally check a pocket knife.
Andrew, I will teach you some stuff that I learned over the weekend. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, well, as long as that includes teaching me how to pick out a good knife to carry on an airplane.
Sure.
There's also no limit on tactical pens. That's all I'm saying.
No, I've had mine taken away from me.
Really?
Yeah. They tried to make like a big deal.
If it still has an actual ink insert in it, it doesn't say Smith & Wesson, you'll be fine.
No, they took it away.
Was it attached to like your chest rig that you were trying to fly through with?
No, they had no problem with that. Like, it was in my pocket, and I actually going through the scanner, I put it in the bin because it's a metal pen. And one guy was like, "No, you can't take this." And he tried to make like a big deal about it, like I was trying to hide the pen and sneak it in. I was like, "It's in the tray with like two other things, well in the open. Like, I'm not trying to hide anything. Just chuck it out. Like, I don't see why this is an issue. Like, if you don't want me to bring it on the plane, that's fine. Just chuck it out. It's like a $10 pen."
Okay,
I don't care.
Two fun airport anecdotes. Gavin, did you recently travel through an airport wearing a chest rig?
Yeah, Friday and today. Fine. Nobody gave a shit.
And why are we wearing chest rigs through airports today?
Because it had my IFAC in it. It was just easier to just clip it into my backpack than to just fit it inside of my backpack. If you get what I'm saying.
No, but I just wanted to clear that up because I thought it'd make for a funny story.
Yeah.
I had to also travel in the not too distant past, and I carry a lot of electronics when I travel because I do computer stuff. So I did the normal take the laptop out of the bag thing, and I also did the normal set off the X-ray detector because they don't understand all of the things in my bag. So the CBSA guy wanted me to empty my bag. I said, no, that's okay. There's nothing in there that you can hurt yourself with. There are shears on the outside. Try not to, use them like scissors to cut anything. You'll be fine. No, sir, I need you to empty your bag. No, but good luck with that. I'll be over here waiting. Oh, and yes, I volunteer for the pat down. So whenever somebody wants to get over here to do that too.
So you just ran it through
TSA. Right? So they actually, instead of actually checking my bag, they just ran it through the X-ray machine a second time. I work with X-ray machines professionally. I don't know what that proves. I don't understand that.
Yeah, unless
they literally just ran it through a second time. They didn't move it or adjust it or do anything with it because I'm like, yeah, if you want to take everything out and put it back in, hey man, you're the boss. I got 3 hours before my flight. Go down. I don't care, but I'm not emptying my bag.
Yeah,
so if you want to check it, then you do it.
Yeah, I've had them X-ray my bag, but they've always repositioned it so that the side that they want to see is in a better position.
No, so instead of repositioning it and running it through the machine correctly a second time, or on a different axis a second time, or actually doing a physical inspection of me or my bag, they just decided that it'd be okay for me to get on an airplane. I love traveling through airports.
It's not meant to be effective. It's meant to be good theater for you.
Oh, it's great theater.
Yeah.
Great theater.
Yeah. Security theater is my favorite theater.
Well, and that's why, because I critique them when they do their physical assessment, because I don't do backscatters. There's a point where I was traveling too much in the U.S. and I was going through one on multiple times a day, and I'm like, yeah, no, that's enough radiation. I'm good. I don't know how much I've had, but I'm sure I've had enough, so I'm just going to opt out. And having taken various courses through friends of ours like Titan Tactical and GC Tactical in Toronto, I now critique the border agents and the security agents when they do. You didn't check my collar. You gotta flip that up and like look underneath. No, the inside of the belt. You got between the pants and the belt. You got to like get in there, and
you also got to ask yourself how deep can the fingers go in behind the belt before it's not comfortable anymore.
Oh, I have no limits with like personal space, so I'm good. Like just get right up in there. Because I have yet to have a CBSA employee that wants to actually do a proper physical inspection. Like I could conceal a fucking AR-15 in my pants and nobody would know.
Yeah, and when you go there.
So
right now.
No, but I mean, like for fun when I travel, if they're being shitty, I'll give them a hard time and critique them because they won't do anything. They won't change their thing, and they won't call a supervisor because they know they know they're doing it wrong. And they're being called on their nonsense.
It would make the job more difficult too.
Right. And so that's why they're just like, just go. Just go.
Well, yeah, I mean the complacency sets in and like they're too lazy, like
they're also under time pressure too.
Yeah, but what's the point? Like if you're not gonna do it properly, what's the point? Like
theater. It's theater.
Well, yeah. And I mean I made this comment today because someone was asking about my kit that I brought on the plane. And, there are a few people that are decent, but those people usually get promoted very quickly. So they're not the ones that are working the line. They go up to supervisor and then, above that and everything else. Or end up getting put in places where security actually matters.
No, and of course, the government took over the CATSA thing and made it less efficient than it used to be privately run, but then they just set the big umbrella after 9/11, right?
What? The government did something that wasn't efficient? I am shocked.
Turns out they run things less efficiently than private enterprise. Figure that one.
I would have never guessed. Let's start wrapping things up. Gavin, where can everybody find you on the internet?
The best place is on Instagram at urbex_GTA.
We're skipping feedback as well.
Did I?
Email from Todd.
Oh, email from Todd. We should do Todd's email. I got all distracted talking about knives, and now I'm looking for a new knife. Email from Todd. Hey guys, interesting show again. It highlighted the contrast between the virtue signaling snow turd and our man Doug. An interesting story for you. I emailed my MPP's office, Toby Barrett, expressing my distaste for the proposed handgun and assault rifle ban. They actually wrote me back mentioning C-71 is completely ineffective and a waste of resources. After Dougie's statement on returning ISIS shitheads, it would not surprise me if they invoke the notwithstanding clause and if it comes to any proposed ban. Cheer up, we will win. So thanks for your email, Todd. I am not sure that we can do notwithstanding for the Firearms Act, but maybe I'm wrong.
I hope we are. That would be amazing.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, I mean we're just using the charter as it was intended.
All right, for real this time, outro. Gavin, where can everybody find you?
Instagram, urbex_GTA.
And
Ian, where can everyone find you on the internet?
Well, I don't do much in the way of social media, but you can find me at theislandretreat@gmail.com. And you can also find me as a co-host on the Canadian Prepper podcast. We're up to episode 4 now, which should be coming out tomorrow, I do believe. It'll be available on iTunes as well.
The Canadian Prepper podcast.
Yeah,
it's a very familiar set of initials.
Do we need to have a rumble?
Well, it's another CPP. Well, it's another CPP, but it's actually one that you might actually see when you're 65, unlike the regular CPP.
It's one that you'll see when you're 65. I feel like this is a retirement joke, but I might not get it.
Canada Pension Plan. You probably won't see it, but you're paying for it right now.
That's literally the joke. Yeah. That's.
I don't know. I'm pretty. What's the deal with this prepper podcast thing? This sounds up my alley.
Well, okay, well, fair enough. Let's talk about it for a second here. Actually, a friend of mine, Eric,
Yes.
he started up a prepper podcast. He did a couple episodes on his own, and he started doing a bit of a shout out for co-hosts. And so I signed up via a private message group we were on, and so we did one episode together. We're starting our second episode tomorrow, so we're up to episode 4 now. We did one on the politics of prepping last week, and then this week we're going to actually be talking about our hunting trips coming up. I'm leaving in about 24 hours to go on my own hunting trip, and Eric's leaving here in about 2 weeks. Once we get back, we're going to talk about episode 5.
That sounds like fun.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Actually, it's good. I mean, we've turns out we've got a lot of common friends and similar interests and everything else. And basically, because of what I've started out here on the West Coast, it's pretty right up my alley as far as that goes. And it's we're going to be covering a bunch of topics, kind of complementary to yours. And hopefully, we'll get a few more episodes out as time goes on.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Any more Canadian content is always good.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what we found we're missing too, is that there's nothing Canadian specific as far as preparedness stuff goes. I mean, it's always down the States and different sets of rules and everything else.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that's been my experience as well. And like so much of the prepping side of things comes from like the South, where it's like, water, water, water. And it's like, well, I live in Ontario and I've got water. You know what I mean? Like there's certain things, it's like just the climate and the environmental differences that have such an impact that, so people, and you hear about people that around here that are following the guidelines from these guys down South. And you're like, well, that doesn't really make sense for our climate and our environment.
Yeah. I was listening to another podcast, Skill Set Magazine. They have a lot of really great interviews and stuff on that, and like a pretty interesting magazine that kind of dabbles with prepping and gear and all that. But they did one on survival and like what happens if your car breaks down in the winter, and like all those guys live in like Arizona. And they're like, oh, well, when we travel to California, like over the high Sierras, like there's some areas where we get stuck in like a mountain pass because of snow. And I'm like, that's not the same thing as like our winters where like.
Yeah, we've got that. It's called the driveway.
Where it gets brutal. So it's just interesting hearing that like what they suggested versus like, I know that's not going to work where I live. And it's not that they're wrong, because for their location, it's correct. But yeah, that's bullshit where we are. Like you will die.
Well, and of course, I mean, we were talking about the differences even with episode 3 there. We mentioned the fact that, where I live, I get 48 inches of rain a year. Water's not the issue. Off one roof alone, I can get 5,000 gallons. No problem.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the least of our concerns out here and everything else. We've just got different concerns than the average American. So, I mean, whether it be like a lack of heat versus too much heat and everything else. And so we're trying to do a little more Canadian content than anything else. And hopefully we're going to make it work in the long term here.
Yeah. Well, I
And
mean,
even
I know
in terms of the like the self-sufficiency in terms of like what type of plants we can grow out here in our climates versus what they have. It's a big difference as well.
Absolutely. I mean, we talk about everything from as far as topic ideas. We've talked about foraging. We've talked about everything, that's under the sun that's different than the States as far as that goes. We just don't want to duplicate stuff that's already been done. That's for sure.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be great. I'll definitely be checking that out myself.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I'd say everyone on this panel tonight is an avid prepper of sorts. So I'm sure if you need some guest panelists every now and again, we'd be happy to help out.
I'm sure
the
reciprocity will
correct term is kook.
Well, I loosened the tinfoil for this episode. I figured just wanted to make sure I fit in here. But no, for sure, a little reciprocity is definitely in order, and you guys be more than welcome for sure.
No, that'd be super
Awesome.
cool. I've listened while I was in the car driving around places, and it was a good start to a show. I'm happy to continue listening.
Yeah.
Well, as of this week, we're available on iTunes for sure. So Canadian Prepper Podcast, and there's also a website I believe started as well, CanadianPrepperPodcast.ca.
Excellent.
Nice. I'm still a little bit concerned about the similarity in initials. I think that may cause some confusion, but
That's all right. We're still the #1 podcast.
that's right. Hey, I hear #1 Podcart is up for grabs.
Yeah.
Well, we're doing our first Google Hangouts this week. You never know; we may start to catch up before long.
Nice.
Well-
No, I was pleased with the quality content for the first couple of episodes. I think I listened to all 4 that you're up to now.
I just did 3. Number 4 is going to be recorded tomorrow. It should be published
Okay,
tomorrow night.
3. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Dude,
So-
you have a ham radio. I'm in.
Well, see, the main host Eric, he's already certified ham. I'm already doing my studying. I know. I think is it you, Gavin, that's already certified with honors?
No, Marty's the one with a call sign.
Yeah, Marty knows about electronics and radios and stuff. We just abuse the bowel fang.
Yeah, we're looking at getting ours.
Yeah, apparently we're trying to get the rest of the guys get licensed.
Yeah, so our little tribe of guys that we have in a semi-local group, I guess, in Ontario, are one of our things that we want all of our guys to do this year is to get their ham licenses.
Yeah, we could broadcast on the ham radio.
2019.
Well, at least
I
come
don't
up
know
with a common frequency to talk back and forth if need be.
Yeah.
That was actually one of the things that we had mentioned before about doing as like a CPP topic, especially with the prevalency of the Balfangs of the in the shooting community, was to talk about sort of what amateur radio is and how to get licensed and shit like that.
Well, it's actually basically as long as you're willing to put in the effort for studying it, it's not going to take that much to get licensed itself. I mean, you don't have to wait for an actual course. You can challenge the exam to what used to be called Industry Canada, and now you can go out and get licensed without a course.
Where did we leave off? We were closing the show and then we got sidetracked on
I do believe we're waiting
discussion.
for Andrew's contact
Right, Marty.
info.
No, Marty. Where can everybody find the show?
I like that Ian is like trying to go in order of the show notes.
Yeah, no, that's. I wish you luck with.
Yeah, you can find the podcast at facebook.com/Canadian Patriot Podcast. You can send us feedback at Canadian Patriot Podcast, or you can visit us at CanadianPatriotPodcast.com/feedback.
As always, I'm Andrew. You can find me at RagnarokTactical.ca. You should definitely buy some first aid supplies. I don't have knives. I do have tactical scissors. At least that's what my wife calls them. She uses them for tactical arts and crafts. But seriously, trauma shears and stuff for your trauma kits. All of the stuff for trauma kits. We have a giant order on the way of all of the trauma stuff. So if you've been waiting for tourniquets and things to be back in stock, by the time that you're listening to this, as long as you're not listening live on Monday night, you're probably going to be able to find stuff on the website again. It's supposed to all be here this week, and it's a massive order. So all of the trauma first aid stuff's going to be back in stock. And I got more body armor, and I was able to reduce the price on body armor. So level 4 made in Europe, level 4 plates, $1,000 a set. A cool 999.99.
Ooh, Merry
Plus,
Christmas.
theft. I can't do anything about the theft. The government wants their piece. I think that wraps everything up. We have to apologize to Rod Giltaca. We could not have 2 guests from BC on the same panel. There's some sort of a law about that. Only one person from BC at a time.
It would upset the
apologies to Rod. And for all of our listeners out there in podcast land, I would like to remind you that you are the true North, strong and free.